So hello, everybody. I'm Ann Irwin. I'm the board secretary, and tonight I am co-hosting our third and final organization redesign question and answer session. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank everybody here for joining us. We hugely appreciate your interest in this whole process and endeavor. So I'm going to speak briefly. And after that, Rabbi Tina and Alan Levine will explain to you a number of things. They're going to talk about why the redesign is necessary, how the process has unfolded, and where we're at now. And then we'll open the floor to questions. So I have one primary point to communicate to you, which is that the board and executive are enthusiastically in support of this initiative. The Shul's leadership has put a lot of time and thought into this endeavor, and we're wholeheartedly on side as we consider the redesign to be essential if Darchei Noam is going to survive and thrive as a community. So the primary issue is that our congregation is aging. And if we're going to pass on our Judaism to younger generations, we need to learn how to communicate with them, how to engage them, and how to bring them into the fold. And I'm particularly aware of this because I have 3 young adult children. They range in age from 19 to 24. And I'm so aware of how much the world has changed since I was that age, and I'm constantly learning about how out of date I am. And I think, as we know, we've been through a digital revolution, and that makes communicating across the generations a real challenge. But if we're going to survive as a congregation, we need to figure out how to cross that divide and engage younger generations. And achieving that result is what this whole office redesign project is about, because we need the right professional staff in order to do it. So I'm now just going to take a moment to explain to you about how you can ask a question for when we get to that point in the proceedings. So down at the bottom where it says reactions, you can click on that, and then you can basically raise your hand virtually with the little yellow raise your hand symbol. You could also go to the chat function and write out a question, and I will be reading those out. If you find all of that a bit daunting, you can just put your hand up. And actually, there aren't that many of us here, so I'll keep track. I'm going to do my best to answer questions in the order that people pose them. But I have to admit, this is actually my first time handling this kind of Q&A, so I'm going to do my absolute best, but please bear with me, maybe cut me some slack. But actually, there's not that many of us, so hopefully it'll be pretty easy. So Rabbi Tina, it's now your turn, and if Sylvia, if you could maybe put a spotlight on Rabbi Tina. Although there's not that many of us, so maybe it's just fine.
You don't have to worry. Here I am, and you know what I look like after all these years. I think we can recognize one another. So first of all, good evening. Thank you for being here. And especially you are so loyal and dedicated, and you would not give up. And here we are. And usually when you don't give up, as hard as it is, then the outcome is sweeter. And it's like sort of making wine, right? You got to stamp those grapes. But so we can share very interesting Torah of hope and of celebration of who we were, who we are today. So I open up with a quote which you have seen before in our communication, and it's come from, from the prophecy of Joel, from his words, as he quotes the Holy One. I will pour out my spirit on all living. Your sons and daughters shall prophesy. Your old men shall dream dreams and see visions, and old women as well. He meant it, just the scribe didn't get that in. So what I want to say is that seeing dreams and visions and then see our future unfold might not be in a biological sense, but certainly in a spirited, ethical, Jewish sense. For we stand in front of the Holy One as Knesset Yisrael, as the gathering, as the community of Israel, and we count from generation to generation. So I am the luckiest, I consider myself luckiest rabbi, who almost for 20 years, I have served this vibrant, thoughtful, ethical, egalitarian, value-driven, socially conscious, intellectual, and spirited community. We managed not only to survive, we managed to thrive based on the fact that people invested so much of their life and resources into our community, and their contribution is felt through and through and deeply appreciated. We have built, we've expanded, at least from 2002, we doubled our membership. And even despite our COVID at the moment and our situation, we still stayed relevant and vibrant and thirsty for knowledge, for spirit, for quality programming and exchange. The dedication it felt through and through. What a wonderful base to build on. This is the fabulous foundation to be able to go further, to take our Darchei Noam Torah wider in the city of Toronto in Canada. We can reach younger cohort and mixed multi-generational manner, communities of spirit who can learn from one another. We can expand our Hebrew school, our B'nai Mitzvah program. We can share our unique approach to 20s and 30s who are thirsty for us and need us, and we need them. I think with support and opportunity to dream visions, we can accomplish interesting things and sustain generation that has built this community in the last 50 years. It started with an idea. Darchei Noam started in people's living room, and the Torah was transferred from the back seat of the car, wrapped in a loving blanket from home to home, till it was finally in a little ark downstairs in the building of Hope Street. And then we marched it to the building we have built at 864 Shepherd. We are a great place of pilgrimage right there at 864, but it's not the only place from where our voice will be heard. We can also be in other areas of the city through meetings for Kabbalat Shabbat, through teaching, through celebration in people's family rooms of little children and their adopted neighbor children. There is an opportunity for us to nurture population that we love, that has built this community, who are also aging. Without generation to lean on, what are we? And so in that spirit, I would like to open this to a stage and a place where, with brilliant organizational design and management and ideas, we can create something fabulous and continue to do so. So your enthusiasm, your visions, your dreams matter, and I can't wait to develop this with you. It will take time, but like all worthy, sweet, hard-earned endeavors, after hard work, eventually harvest comes. So welcome, thank you, and delighted to be part of this tonight. And always, always open for more conversations and exchanges.
Thank you, Rabbi Tina.
Alan is next.
A lot to think about. And I'd like to introduce Alan next. Could you give us a little introduction about who you are before you talk about the program?
Okay, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Alan Levine. I'm a longtime member of the community. I was involved deeply in the capital campaign for our building, for any of you who don't know. And I've just sort of transformed from a younger guy with dreams to one of those older guys with dreams that the rabbi was talking about. On a personal note, I mean, the reason that I like the skill among the skills that I tried to bring to this is that I have been a CEO twice, including a company that had about 300 employees, which I built from the ground up. And I then became a consultant with a consulting firm that does specialize in organization design, which I am not a deep scientist of, but understand how and when to use it. And really what I've learned throughout my working life is that I'm incredibly successful when I find someone who, to do the work, who's really good. That, it's always about the people, and that never changes. Just moving now into this. First, I just want to thank the rabbi for really powering the opportunity that our community has, both with her vision and with her fundraising skill, because it takes both. And I would not have been interested in and willing to undertake something that's this much work unless they were both there. Second, although I think the view may be that we're glacial when it comes to decision making, and certainly in many areas we are. When we had a confluence of events, the rabbi securing a 10-year gift for the purpose of helping build, create more multi-generational communities, our community. And second, when both of the lead professionals in our community departed, that there seemed to be an opportunity to power things. And that I think we all, if we think about, and what I thought about, the relationship between ourselves and our professional leaders over the years. And we've been a community where the strategic leadership has always come from the lay people. And we hired administrators or accountants to implement what we think, what we want to do. And we were very effective strategists for decades. But this is not a brand new idea to become multi-generational, but we have not succeeded. And so I suggested that we hire professionals to look at organizations that were succeeding, and not look at what they were doing, but look at who was driving the success. And really through a 4-month period, just 4 months from raising the idea to turning it into a proposal, we had board approval in April of 2021. Then we did the work. We looked at communities across North America who were successful. We looked at how they were successful. We learned a couple of really key things. We learned, indeed, yes, it was like someone, not someone great, but a few, more than one great person, which is good because we already have one. So we just need, but she needs a team. And we learned some other things, we learned a lot about the kind of person that it took. And also we learned that every place had a different solution. And we will too, because the realities of Toronto are different than the realities of a Boston suburb or of a Raleigh, of Raleigh, North Carolina, but or of some other programs here in Toronto. So as we went through this, I also want to say that there were, besides the board members all being involved in giving feedback to the plan, we also invited feedback from quite a few congregants. in areas that we knew were affected, especially from our service leaders who enthusiastically supported the idea of building out our capability in that area, among others. There was a task force that was equal parts young people, even by regular standards, and older folk. And our rabbi, so was Scott Pasternak, Elena Talensky, Hannah Cohen, and then Lisa Cherendoff, past president, and our current president, David McKee. Where we are now is we came up with a design. The board pressure tested it rigorously. And we then moved to the recruiting phase. Recruiting phases are not, they have a ramp up period, but at this period, we've posted the jobs in over 15 schools and programs. And that includes not just rabbinic schools or schools that graduate cantors, but also business schools, obviously because of the executive director role, and Jewish studies programs. And our recruiters also don't just put a posting up, they network with the people at these locations. We know how important it is to develop a relationship and sell us. We've also networked with another 15 to 20 people who have been recommended to us by a consultant that we engaged actually at the beginning of the project when we were looking for the most successful communities in wherever they were in being multi-generational. We found someone with a lot of expertise in this area because she'd done a huge study for the UJA on communities across North America. And so she's been connecting us with other people that we should network with. And the applications are starting to come in. We've got now over 20. Some of them are completely inappropriate, but including the non-Jewish director of Jewish Living and Learning. So yeah, that's right. And we've posted on Indeed, LinkedIn, Jewish Jobs, Jewish Toronto, all those places. I didn't mention that. But we are now we have a few candidates that look interesting. And so we're going to do some preliminaries. We're going to do some secondary screening. And then we hope that we'll have candidates worthy of going through the interview process, which is a 3-part interview process with teams of community members that each focus on a certain functional area. Okay, enough on that. Over to your questions.
Thank you, Alan. Now,
Are there any questions? Fran? You'll need to unmute yourself, Fran. Yeah. Oh. Okay, you're unmuted, Fran, but we still can't hear you. You can write it in the chat and then I'll read it out.
so Fred, send the chat to Anne.
In the meantime, Anne, we have a couple of raised hands.
Yes, we do.
So
Okay,
we could just
Yehuda.
go there.
Yeah. So, I hear a lot of really progressive, interesting stuff, but what exactly is the goal? Where are these people going to take us? What is your vision down the road in a year, 2 years? And also, it's all very non-specific. And the other thing is, how far along are you in this process? Because it seems to be taking, from what you've said, quite a while to find people. Now, I know you don't want to rush into this, but can you give us some idea of when you expect realistically to hire somebody? And like I said, how do you see us in a year? What specifically are you looking for from these people?
So Alan, do you want me to just pick up a couple of things that are very visual. So Yehuda, right now, if we're lucky, we'll have 12 B'nai Mitzvah students. That is if we're lucky for the next year. What I see successes is 22, based on our size and based on what we can do. So someone needs to have enough fire and ability and dedication to go and find them in order for us to feel a weight of those celebrations. With that, we will cut the age group, in the sanctuary by half, meaning that it's wonderful how mature and beautiful we are, but I think we really all get a charge from young people sitting among us, for sure. The other thing is that our babysitting room, very often, very empty. Do I see it, what do I see successes from these people, what we would like to do? I'll be happy with 10 the first year and a half, and then 20 following that year. This is what success looks like. I would like to see our 20s and 30s group that I've been nurturing now for a bit, from 12 and 15 in my house for Shabbat dinner with their partners, to tripling that account with some real hipster who can set their souls on fire. And I will be the grandmama with pleasure holding the court, as we should. And you really see something rocking when at high holidays, when you look around at social hall or our sanctuary, you see the change in a community, that we are vibrant and mature, as well as relevant and interesting to all generations. So these are just some to start with. I would like to see our Hebrew school multiply in number, not for 30 students, which is a jewel, but actually we should be at 70, at least at 70. That will take a serious effort. We might not be able to do it all on Sunday and all at 864 Shepherd. We might have to diversify and go into the community, but this is what success might look like. It's deliverable. It's a quality program with a dedicated, ongoing efforts to go after them, because pursuit helps. It does. It works in education, it works in the marriage, and it works when we want to educate our children.
So Tina, I assume that in the past, we've had a lot of bar mitzvahs that are, these people go to the Hebrew school, that they're not members of the shul, or if they are, they just have the bar mitzvah and they only go up twice a year. So right. I would imagine that these are people that you want to get in and coming in on a regular basis. So how are you going to do that?
Yes.
So how about if I jump in here? So this is really the crux of the change. We have been operating for 40 years as if we are the ones who have to come up with that answer. And we have failed to come up with that answer. And we have had some really smart people working really hard. And yet, the numbers are going the wrong way. So this is where we need the organizational vision, as opposed to the community vision, is leadership that can not just be our tactical implementers, but our strategic partners, people who can work with us to talk about what we have going for us. And we actually have some really interesting things going for us, most especially a very large cadre of children of the congregation in our city who are unaffiliated, unaffiliated. But they bring their expertise, we bring our knowledge and expertise and collaborate, and we come up with what we're going to do, because we don't know. This goes back to what we learned. The solution in every place was different, but was always the same, was that creative, top-notch, dynamic, charismatic Jewish leaders were professional Jewish leaders were part of the solution. Also, just to add, one of the things I found most intriguing as a CEO from a traditional hierarchical environment was that many of the communities succeeded. These communities had a very collaborative leadership model. And when I thought about that, I thought about how that really matches the Reconstructionist ethos. And that, maybe some of the disconnects we've always had with our, among other things with our office, is that we actually, it's never been really organized with Reconstructionist ethos. So But that again takes a level of maturity and ability and commitment to, to being part of a leadership team that does filter strongly into the interviews. In terms of the timing, we're like, it's till you get the right person. Like, I think for me, I'm most anxious to see valid candidates, and I'm meeting with the recruiters on Friday. They say they have a few, and so I hope we'll get into the interview stage. Then we have to, like, the interview stage will not be brief because we needed to touch a lot of congregants. So I would suspect it will be, sometime, it could be the summer. And then what happens if the absolute best candidate needs more time to unentangle themselves? But good thing, if we can get one sooner. So I wish I had definitive stuff. And I really, feel bad for our executive who has carried a huge load of what other staff did. By the way, just going back to, again, one other thing about the vision, the other big organizational learning was that, and it shouldn't be a surprise, that people respond to people who look like them. And so we need everybody. We need people who look like us, but we need people who look like the other generations as part of our leadership as well. Hope that answers things.
Yeah, I just want to make one comment after this. Yehuda, referring to the fact that people who come to us and can have a bar bat mitzvah, but they're not members, or they're not seen. Our ability to touch lives are crucial, because it seems like in a group of 200 to 250 guests, there are many new faces. There are also younger families with children. There is also good word in the city that we are a wonderful place to be. There is a yummy gathering on Kiddush and a gorgeous kid who just really did something beautiful, and we can be proud. And then you never know what it really means. Thinking Jewish, thinking Darchei Noam is thinking big. And you might not see our membership base grow very much. You will see our programming grow, attracting other people, and it feeds us in all kinds of interesting ways and returns to us. And we are poised, secure, and able to do that in the city and in our development. We're middle-aged, beautiful time to be generous.
Yeah, I know it's going to take quite a while for this whole process sort of to sort of get the average age down. I mean, I realize it's going to take years. It's not going to happen overnight.
Wait, I think we need to move on perhaps to somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Fran was waiting. Fran?
Yeah, it's Fran's turn. So I'm going to read Fran's question, which is in the chat. Will the additional details of the plan be developed by the staff that will be hired? It sounds vague. And then the second part of this question, is the funding independent of our annual shul fees? And then point 3, I met someone who was considering a bar mitzvah at our shul, but was comparing it with another shul. I feel the other shul may have won out. So it's a good idea to offer something more or different than other places in the community.
So let me try to answer those. I think I wrote down all 3, and I guess I could always refer to the chat box. Our leaders are not going to be developing the plans for us. They're going to be our new professional leaders are going to be developing the plans with us. And in the detailed job descriptions, the first year goals for both roles are pretty modest, except in the area of getting to really know our community. They're quite aggressive. So get to know our community, get to test some things, get to try some things, but in the end, nothing is going to succeed in an organization like ours without partnership between lay people, without huge lay support and volunteer support. That's how it always works. That's how it always will work. But what we hope, and the whole point of this, is that those volunteers now feel like they have partners who are part of the fuel. And one of my only somewhat facetious measures of success of this project is that someday 2 people want to be president at the same time. because the team that they'd be working with is so exciting. Even figuring out how to work together is part, like, again, we need to, like, the level of leadership that we are thinking of is in the executive director role is someone who could help, who could facilitate the process of figuring out how our new professional leadership team and our later leaders are going to work together, what governance looks like, when things need to be approved, what level, what kind of things do they want autonomy for, how's it going to evolve over time, right? Because, as we get to know each other and get comfortable. So that's very much something, again, that to date has always had to be driven by an increasingly tired volunteer base instead of the other way around. In terms of fees, no. The simple answer is that we are going to spend more per year on this initiative than the specifics of the gift per year. However, there's a few things to note. Number one, we're actually already in we're in the third year of receiving the gift. So we have accumulated a couple of $100,000 from the gift that we have only spent on the Human Resources Project. The second thing is that we actually, the pandemic, because of a combination of government supports and costs, left us with very significant surpluses in the last year. So we are really in a position where we can afford to make a lean forward between the external funding. And believe me, once there's some funding in place, then it's always easy to find more. But with the funding we have and the resources we have, the Finance Committee had no trouble endorsing this, as something that, like we are expecting that by somewhere in year 3, we're going to have some idea of, like, not that we're succeeding, whatever success is, because that has to be defined again with our lay leadership working with our new professional leadership, but that we're making progress and we feel like we're on the right track. Even but so much has to be redefined. Like, I don't know if we'll use the word membership in 10 years, who knows? I'm sure membership has to look different for this generation, whatever it is. So I think there's a lot to work out. But, and then third, again, understanding why we look like the problem with, we keep asking the kinds of questions you ask as your third question, Fran. Why didn't we get this? Why didn't we succeed here? Right. And whatever the answer is, our problem is we don't have the professional partners to discuss what we're going to do about it. So we know, okay, we're losing out, but we need to have a partner to figure out how we're going to change that.
Okay. Desiree? Not sure if I pronounced that name correctly. You're next.
Thank you. Actually, we both have questions. May I start?
Please.
First of all, Rabbi, thank you very much for a wonderful, clear, concise, and achievable vision. That's the sort of aim that I think we really need to go for. It is wonderful to hear that spelled out. I think we can all get behind that. What makes me uneasy, Alan, is that between that very clear vision and the management speak that you've given us about hiring a professional, I see a bit of a gap. And I don't see the specificity of what kind of a leader is going to be the silver bullet that's going to deliver the vision that the rabbi very clearly laid out. So what is the statement of merit criteria? What are we trying to hire? What does that look like? How do we know when we've got it? How long is the contract? What are the conditions for renewing it? So I think many of us in the shul have been involved in hiring. I don't have a sense of confidence that the process you've described will actually produce the professional we need. So I'll stop there, and we can come back to Desiree next.
Alan, can I just respond to the piece that in terms of what kind of a professionals do things like this? So in my experience, they come from three main sources. One, it can be someone with rabbinical training, somebody with a cantor/educator. Music is crucial in this respect. It can be someone with background in Jewish education with a lot of experience in the synagogue, creation of the community. So you actually have people coming from about three various walks of life, as well as some very rare self-taught people. But they would need a lot of support from us on that. So there are institutions that train this. It exists. It exists in all large communities. I mean, I was today at the Toronto Board of Rabbis, synagogues that our size synagogue, 400 households, very rare would not have 2, if not 3 paraprofessionals, would be full-time rabbi, full-time chazan, or a cantor, and also an educator, which could be either master's degree in Jewish education or a rabbinical student. They fly them in and so forth. So there are various ways to divide it. But in other words, these are the institutions that train people like this.
So are we talking about 1, 2, 3?
Okay, so I mean, sorry, I forgot your name. Sorry?
I'm David.
David, so the congregational announcement did specify 2 roles. They were reviewed at a high level, just at the advertisement level, but we are talking about 2 roles. One that would be that would focus on helping our organization run right. That would be the glue more of the knitter together, and also the one who helped us develop our processes for better governance and clearer, like, you know, like Darchei Noam is like the poster child for being siloed. Like no one knows what everybody else is doing. So all of that, whereas the other role is really focused more on engagement. The way we did this, just to try to put your mind at ease, and I'll try to keep it away from too much management speak, is that once we took a look at the external organizations, we also characterized all of the functions that went into running our organization, which basically can be divided into 2 piles, one that are engagement functions and one that are supporting functions. Except even the supporting functions engage congregants because we have volunteers on, like, okay, finance is a supporting function, but we engage volunteers. So then there's just sort of 2 levels of engagement. And then we did what happens in organization design, and you try to put them in coherent sets and we also, but you don't just align them, you put them in coherent pieces or groups, but then you create performance expectations. Like, how good do we need someone the person who's doing this job to be at developing board governance versus how good do we need them to be at finance, or how good do we need them to be at music, or at chanting Torah. So all of that is in the detailed design. In the detailed role descriptions. So there are there's functional. So the expectations of performance for every level, and then the interview process lines up with that as well. Each of the interviews for the candidates, and we have 3 interviews for each candidate, and we've actually run a training session for all the congregants who are interviewing, so they understand, and they've actually role-played open-ended questioning, and we've created and trained them on using a scoring matrix, just so they can relativize the candidates they see. Is this enough?
So I apologize if I sounded a little aggressive, but it's the detailed specifications of what it is that you want. And have I missed that somewhere? Has that been public?
We only shared.
I'm going to jump in. Ellen, I just want to jump in. I want you to know that the criteria that you outlined for performance indicators of success are actually totally different from Tina's. And that is a concern. Tina's deliverables are very, very clear on what she wants on an increase in this particular group, that group, and that group. And you're talking about you want someone who can definitely deliver on board governance.
But because there's two people, again, there are two roles. One is doing what Tina talked about. The second is doing what I'm talking about. Although they will collaborate and be together as part of the leadership team. What you guys like, and then not to get down into the weeds of organizational planning, but actually what Tina's talking about really are goals, and they're not vision. They're the concrete measure of what how you're progressing towards your vision, and those are the right those are some of the right measures, but there's two elements of vision here. One, because there were two things that turned out to be important. One was our vision of what we want our community to be about and what we want it to look like. And the second was our vision of what the organization that would enable that would have to look like. And definitely Tina focused more on the first, and that's what inspired the second. I'm just a technician doing the second one.
So what do we read to understand your
think
technical specifications?
We have not, the board and the executive, in the previous history of Darchei Noam, no one has ever shared job descriptions or even the ads with the community at large. So if the board decides they want to share the detailed role descriptions, which with everyone, that's great. Or if they just want to, say, hey, anybody who wants some. In general, most people don't even read the ads very well, let alone the detail. But I think that I'm not why don't you just send a request that you get the detailed specs, so because you happen to be interested.
Alan, maybe you could just say what those two, I've got you, Myra, thank you. Maybe you could say what the job titles of those two roles.
The Director of Jewish Living and Learning and the Executive Director of Planning and Operations. Those are the two roles.
Okay.
So again, one focused on engagement functions and one focused on supporting functions.
Okay, so Leon, you're next.
I'll be very, very, very brief. I'll take down my hand. So, I hats off really to this community, to Alan, all the people that are in your committee that are driving this forward. The vision is incredible. The drive is incredible. And the warmth and the Hamishness, if I could use coin an adaptation of my Yiddish, is really very impressive. So I'm not going to do KPIs and performance indicators and all that management speak that we're not. And just focus on three small suggestions, questions that you, Alan, you might have actually partly alluded to or recovered in your last response. The first one is in organizations and groups and families, it's always good to build on your strengths. One of the strengths that I see at Darchei Noam has been the wealth of music that is really embedded in the community. We see everything from dancing and rukudia to the services themselves, which are the most creative in the city, if not the country, to the wonderful virtuosos individually and klezmer groups together, and every permutation, combination. So the question is, and you might have actually responded, but maybe you could tell it a bit more, is music and the cultivation of music part of the role? And I see a nodding head, so that's one. So we'll put that on the table for a second. The second one, the second comment that I have is actually connected to the first, because one of the things I've seen from different organizations that want to inspire, involve, engage another generation has been the use of internships. We have Shimshim, which is in fact that. but is the mentoring and the cultivation of interns, especially university age interns, part of the function of, in particular, of the Jewish Life one, but even of the governance position. Is that part of it? And the third piece that I'm going to put in, one of the organizations that I've seen that really has been very successful in bridging the generations is the Class Canada. And there's actually a lot of people in our congregation, our community, that are actually very, very involved in Class Canada. And I'm wondering if part of their success is that they are all about music and Yiddish and other things, but music is at the core of what they do, or what we do, because I've been there for a number of years. Second is one of the very strong features of Class Canada Camp, if you haven't been there, is the participation of upwards of 50 or more university students, scholarship students, partly that are drawn there for the opportunity for musical engagement and education and development, partly because some of them are interested in Yiddish and Yiddishkeit, but especially the Yiddish language. And third is that they're interested in Jewish culture and peoplehood. So so that's about a 50 to 75 people out of a camp that's perhaps about 400 to 450 in a good year. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for using internships and for the new position to have a role in cultivating and managing that process. And two is going back to the first question. Is this person, I don't mind a singing accountant either, but is the Jewish Life person going to have a role and responsibility in cultivating that treasure of music that we already have?
So
those are my questions.
They're wonderful, Leon, and I know I love hearing you sing. And I remember in Purim, and before COVID, you had quite a performance. So I just want to say that.
And when I'm sober, I could sing too.
So I'm looking forward to it. So we actually, I insisted, and it's all from consultation and understanding that this is within the role description. It's a must. So it's a must to play an instrument and to be able to lead services with chen, with charm, with really, sweetness, right? That Darchei Noam represents, and the culture we try to embody. So thank you, and I like your ideas from Klezmer Camp. So we are learning from other people, from various limuds and the styles, and yes, we need manpower. Ideas we're not short of. We need human enthusiasm and ability to do, and then also just flowering of ideas and engagement of our congregants further and deeper, because we have more talented people at Darchei Noam that would love to be engaged. We need to tap on their shoulders. That requires nurturance. That requires effort. We just, we don't have it. I'm a little lonely, I have to say, when it comes to professional support. So anyway, thank you. They're great comments.
And to amplify, again, the detailed specifications and the role description, like music is identified as a specific function, ability to connect with all generations through music. And it's even so important to us that actually it's part of the screening process. We're not moving to the interview stage without an audition tape. So that's like that. In fact, there's probably nothing that is more sacrosanct on our what needs to be in that role than that. All the other ideas you have, and every one of these sessions, people come forward with organizations we can collaborate with. And again, our problem is not ideas, it's muscle to okay, and skill. As partnerships to me seem like such a smart thing. You've got so many different special interest groups that need, that are looking, that could be looking for broader, or, there's organizations like Open Table that just, literally need, who are engaging young people already, but need space and need clergy support. So I think there's many opportunities. And again, what we need is a team to work with us on those opportunities. I think again and then help provide the muscle to make them happen.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bonnie, you're next.
And also later on, Myra just raised her hand as well, later on.
Yeah,
you know,
I've got Myra
thank
on my
you.
list.
Right, and I think Mark, you're also right. Mark, I think I saw your hand. Okay, just want to make sure you all
And
done.
Monique. Anyways, first of all, kudos to Rabbi Tina and to Alan and everybody who's been working on the reorganization. It sounds very exciting. I would like more than music. I would like to hear how much this screening process will deal with the values of the candidates. I mean, this is a shul. My particular interest, of course, is support of Israel. So I would really, and we just had Rabbi Amiel Hirsch, who was talking about how sadly some of the rabbinical colleges have, some of their candidates have an anti-Israel bias. So I would like to hear, as part of the screening, as part of the questioning, how you will ascertain support of Israel in the candidates that you're choosing.
So I don't remember the date, but as part of building the role descriptions, we went back to the process we ran as a team about 7 or 8 years ago, which identified, I think, 8 values of Darchei Noam, which included support of Israel. That's filtered in. One of the, if we get past the screen, one of the interviewer, like there'll be an interview, part of an interview that will probe this. Certainly, but values, like, so there's one group that's like specifically assigned values alignment, but in the instruction sheet to the interviewers, like that's something we're going to be looking for everywhere. Again, it's sharing our values, not just about Israel, but tikkun olam, egalitarianism, like all those things, whatever the hot 8 word that I can't recite by heart. I'm sorry. I think, certainly it's not going to be good to have anybody in these roles with extreme views in any of the areas of our values, one way or the other. Again, there's going to be many congregants involved in meeting them, and there'll be plenty of opportunity to ask. Yeah. And then, I think someone suggested that there was a community that got into trouble because they hired someone who then they found out had very anti-Israel social media posts. So I'll be surprised, given the thoroughness of our recruiting firm, if checking social media posts is not part of the process. But I have asked them to make sure it is. And when I meet with them on Friday, I'm sure they'll let me know.
Thank you.
Alan, can I just jump in before the next question is answered? And I was thinking of the word reorganization. It's kind of such a big word, right? And it sounded, I think it could have scared us to a degree. So let me just demystify and deconstruct the concept in this moment. We always had somebody who ran Hebrew school and took care of our B'nai Mitzvah students and looked over our little ones, taught Shabbat, and organization of that kind. What we did not have resources for is to have this person's background, education, and compensation and opportunity to develop this at a larger scale. We had wonderful people, thoughtful, sweet people, but that role which we now expanded always existed. We needed it. So I don't want you to be frightened because the person might have a title, God forbid, there might be somebody with the title, whether they choose to use it or not. They are going to be lifting and continuing with what has been already developed, but at at another level. And so the same thing with the director of, executive director. We have a long name for it, but executive director we had for a number of years. They did with the organizational piece, the governance piece, the plumbing, making sure we had challah on Shabbat morning, like all of that. But we're going to take this another level, which every organization, if they're confident and able, will do. We had this beautiful little school in Leslieville. Nobody talked about it or didn't talk about it enough. I talked about it. But we spring up, nurtured over 3 years. Unbelievable outreach. We should have 4 of them throughout the city, linking to Darchei Noam in some way. 4 of them, and we can find those posts. It will take a while to develop. So the person could manage only 1, but you're gonna get some serious support. We can manage 1, and then 2, and then 3. Is it a radical idea? I don't think so. Providing education, Jewish education to our Jewish children, whether they're relevant to Darchei Noam or potential, or educating Jewish people is not reorganizational radical approach to Jewish life. It's called kiruv. It's the fact that you love your Jewish life and you want to give it away. And we made it possible, we said to people, you know what? Do you have Jewish grandchildren? Wonderful. Do your neighbors have Jewish grandchildren? Even better, bring them, come over. Just open the door, we'll teach them. This is what we need, but we need people who have that ability, and that comes with education and training and exposure. So it's not radical, it's expanding. So that's all.
Ronit?
Hi, everybody. I think basically Bonnie asked my question, so I'm just going to say it as a comment. A couple of things. First of all, Rabbi, I understand your vision, and if we could clone you, we would not have to look for another educator. I'm not a skilled person in terms of hiring or firing, but I am an educator. I've been an educator all my life, and I know the value, and I know the value of leadership. For me, just like for Bonnie, it's very, very important that Israel will be central in our leadership direction. I think that, well, I'm going to say 2 sentences before what I think. I came to the synagogue because my kids dragged me here. They wanted a smaller congregation from the one that we belong to, and they chose Darchei Noam. So I'm at Darchei Noam because it's not a huge congregation, and I'm certainly hoping that we will not lose the wonderful things that are happening in a smaller congregation because we have a vision of becoming very big. In terms of Israel, I think that the generation that is growing up now, the generation that we are targeting, is the one that perhaps does not have the experience of Jewish life before the state of Israel, and therefore perhaps does not understand all the meaning of having the state of Israel in our life. So that's why, to me, is so important that the leadership will understand it and will go in that direction, and will lead and teach and give them enough of a strong base of understanding so that they will be able to stand all the withstand all the winds of anti-Semitism that are blowing now, that have not been blowing so strongly 20 years ago. So yeah, this is my comment, and I don't really think that it's a question right now.
Okay. So our next questioner is Myra.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
I have really enjoyed listening to everybody this evening. And I think a lot was covered that satisfied me. I just wanted to say that I have a tremendous amount of faith in those two people who are putting so much time and effort, Alan and Tina. I think that, not too many of us could take over the job. And these two people have started the night off with giving, exactly what they're looking for. And none of us can fill that role. We can't ask the rabbi, even though she's made the list, to follow up on all this. She's the rabbi. She has enough to do. So I feel that that it's appropriate that at this time in my membership with Darchei Noam, that's God, I think it's about 25 years, that I think we're so lucky to have two people like that can put together the idea of how we who are much older now can take on these jobs. I think it's a brilliant idea that we get someone, to be the sidekick to find these things. I can't imagine Tina going out to, so many doors and knocking on doors and finding out. I mean, she's got her job. We all have our job. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yes.
So
yes.
yes. So I think that they've laid out a plan for us much better than I could ever do, because they're part of it so much, even though I've been an active member. And I do understand that we might have to go afield for this. We might have to, do something with the name of Darchei Noam elsewhere, because we've already done that route and we know how to do it. So I just wanted to leave. I have to leave soon. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, because everyone did, search things out. But I just want these two people to know, with much gratitude and thankfulness, that we have people who are getting the people to keep us together and going forward.
Thank you, Myra.
Thank you so much. Have a safe night. What a pleasure. I appreciate it very, very much.
So Mark was next, but I'm not sure that he's there, but I see you, Yehuda, but we've actually got a question here from Desiree over in the chat. Will the two people come from Toronto? That may be very important, especially for the community building role. Alan, do you want to respond to that?
The answer is, I wish. Certainly that would be a tremendous asset. And I think, actually, ironically, I think it's more important, in my opinion, is more important for the executive director role, because the nuance of how this particular community works and all the politics of our community and navigating is actually, is something that's, that won't be that easy to learn. Also, of course, if the candidates come from Toronto, they'll probably cost us less because they'll already be here. So there's a lot to, but so far, and there are, right, and we're actually, I know we're going to be discussing a very intriguing potential candidate for executive director on Friday, and they are from Toronto. But anyways, Desiree, it would be my dream that they would be from Toronto. So certainly, we have beaten, we have invested in every Canadian advertising source relevant to the Jewish community to make sure. And we have networked, more in Toronto, more in the Canadian, a lot of the Canadian Jewish community. I've communicated with other rabbis. So yeah, we're doing whatever we can.
Yehuda, you're next.
Okay. Before I have a sort of question comment, Desiree, I think Tina might disagree with you there. She's not If we limit ourselves to Toronto, you know.
About Toronto. Well, I fell in love and I ended up in Toronto. I could have gone to the moon. So maybe that too will happen. And it was an accidental meeting, interim, part-time.
So Alan, I'll just rephrase something. This is listening to everybody talking and all the comments and the questions. I'm sort of digesting this, and having a marketing background, the way I see this evolving, again, I've been with the show for a long time, and I want to draw a parallel and get your opinion. Many times somebody will start a family business, a small company, and then it gets to the point where it's beyond their capabilities. In other words, to grow the company, you have to have outside professional management running the company that has a different picture than the founder, because it's got to go to another level. And from what you're saying, I think we're at that point in a different way. We're an older congregation, but if we want to develop, we can't rely on our homegrown talent. You bring in the outside expertise, the younger expertise is the only way to go, because we don't have enough younger people in the congregation to keep growing. And this is why you're doing what you're doing. So that's sort of the parallel I see from what I hear and talk. So
I mean, I think there's a lot to that parallel. I would say again, community, we're a community, we're not a company. And so, however, but we are suffering from some of the problems that occur when you don't bring in new, fresh ideas. But I think the other thing is, and I don't think this, and in business, from my experience in business, bringing people in that change everything rarely works, right? It's building on what's, whether it's business or whether it's our community, building on what's there. But in our case, this is, again, this is in the job spec. You're going, these roles are about helping us continue to reconstruct, our values and our practices in ways that will help us connect with more generations than we do right now. So we are definitely looking for, so I say the thing that's the most accurate is this is an admission that our own ideas and our own expertise are not enough.
These are sweet comments, Ehud, and very insightful. And we also, if we're involved in one area of our Jewish life at Darchei Noam, it doesn't mean we see all the areas. I mean, I'm one of the, just by the virtue of what I do, one of the few people who actually see all the interrelated parts. So people can maybe have their membership, do not come regularly, other on your site and so forth, and really don't understand the Hebrew school, don't have children of bar bat mitzvah age, cannot understand the process. So there are things that how one relates to other that are very, very intricate that you need to really understand systemically and be in it. So that is a very, very important piece. That's number one. Number two, Ehud, I think you speak about natural fear of walking into a sanctuary, and instead of seeing these familiar sweet faces who are now our family and with whom we have birthed children, lost, struggled, triumphed, loved, celebrated. All of a sudden, I'll be it's going to be like, Yom Kippur, I don't know anybody, right? All of a sudden, everyone came I'm lost. Where's my family? So I would say that, the idea that all of a sudden on Saturday morning, the Darchei Noam door will be downstairs, swing open, I'm going to be plastered against the wall, and 120 and 30-year-olds with strollers and boyfriends and girlfriends rush upstairs towards the sanctuary, and everyone is shocked. Nobody knows who these people are. I mean, with all due respect, it will take a long time for us to work through this. We will love each other and continue to love each other. We just can't stand still. And we need to open our embrace wider, creative, patient, and we might, fail a little bit and triumph in another place. What I don't think we are willing to do, and I'm there with you, is to look in the mirror and says, we haven't tried when we could. That is hard to live with. But to say we were great and we gave it away as much as we could, over and over again. That's something is of a legacy, and you're in this poised to do it. And I love my partnership with Alan. I've learned a lot, tremendous. I could not do this alone. With some of you, I mean, with all of you, we have long-standing sweet relationships, and we're in it for a good reason and together, and nothing's more meaningful, nothing. So, and if there is no more questions, I'm available, not tonight, I think I'm a little bit done, but anything you want to ask later on, I'm away this weekend, but you know, we'll be back and we can process this further and, you know, have oxygen to breathe and to dream. So
We have one last question, Rabbi Tina, in the chat, and this will be the final question.
sorry, I didn't see it. My apologies.
It's okay, it's in the chat. It's from
I don't have it
Desiree.
in my chat. I don't see it. So, but so if you can read it out, that's fine. I don't see it in my chat. Yeah, I don't know why.
Says, I am interested to know if changes in the ritual committee can be or will be part of the overall change. The very dominant nature of Hebrew can be a barrier to us becoming more inclusive.
Excellent question. It came up before, over and over again, and there's something to think about. It's something for ritual committee to wrestle with and what it means. And of course, there will be those for whom Hebrew is love of life, and you know, they want to ground themselves in the service. So we will have to be creative about it. There is a way to, you know, to make room for both expressions, you know, and yeah, and try. So
and just to take it a little more, you know, again, if we really stay true to our vision and we really focus on that, and that we're talking about engaging more people and broader ranges of generations, and our, you know, and we try some different tests with our new professionals who, you know, I think, you know, I hope our community will be brave and make changes to ritual, in Tikkun Olam, whatever we need to do to, you know, to have a broader appeal. But I also think, again, you know, back to the concern about feeling like, you know, you don't want to feel like a stranger, is, again, that's got to be part of the overall plan, is how do we, if we are successful in bringing new people into our community, how do we build that sense of cross-generational community? And in fact, we were so curious about it that we actually did a couple of second interviews with external congregations. Again, the answer was different, but like they, you know, again, but part of it is recognizing, the big part of it is recognizing that it's something else that you need to do and need to put on the table. And then it comes down to how our leadership, our lay leadership, prioritizes things with our new professional team.
So Rabbi Tina, would you like to just make a closing comment? And then I think we're done for the night.
yes, I love you very much. Go to sleep.
She made her closing comment, but then there was one more question. It was
Yeah, I know.
I thought I've already finished it. You want more? It just tells you how much you care. Okay, be well. Bye.
Okay, bye everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for attending.
And thank you very much, very much. And Sylvia also, thanks, means a lot.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Sylvia. Bye, everybody.